Looks like I'm live. Let's see here. It's looking like my image might be flipped. Let me just double check and make sure that everything looks okay. Looks flipped on my end. Let's see. Well, there we go. I can see on my phone that we are not actually backwards. Gotta turn off my phone. So I wanted to go ahead and do this. Oh my goodness, my hair. Ooh. See, this is the thing about live videos is you have all of your perfect imperfections showing up to everyone. It doesn't look like I have anyone who's joined me yet. So I guess I'll just kind of start off talking about why I wanted to do this video, why I wanted to do this video on New Year's Eve. So I wanted to do kind of like a year in review where I kind of go over, I see we have one person here, yay. Oh, now we have 0. Maybe that was me, who knows? But I kind of wanted to do this year in review, just kind of going over, okay, 2020 was an absolutely crazy year. So 2021 was different. And I know a lot of medical interpreters have been asking me, well, how's your year been? Like, how have things been? Because things have just been so different. So I kind of wanted to go over just my 2021 year in review. Hopefully y'all will find it helpful just to kind of have your finger on the pulse of how the interpreting world is right now. I mean, at the very least in my narrow view here in Richmond, Virginia, as an in-person medical interpreter. So to start off with, first off, if you're joining me, you are probably either on the West Coast because it is 9 o'clock at night here right now in, like I said, East Coast, United States, Richmond, Virginia, meaning on the West Coast of the United States, we're looking at like 6 o'clock. So much better time for y'all than it is for me right now. I had to, unfortunately, our New Year's plans have kind of been, as I'm sure a lot of y'all's New Year's plans have been, very touch and go, just with how COVID's been, exposures, things like that. Fortunately, everyone in my home is safe and sound. All of my immediate family, to my knowledge, is safe and sound. But we are spending New Year's home because we obviously don't want to contribute to this huge COVID wave that we're having right now. So if you are doing something for New Year's, please, of course, just be safe. If you're not fully vaccinated at this point, you should probably stay home. Honestly, I think most people should be staying home right now. But, you know, if you need to go spend some time with folks, put on your mask, make sure you're masking up, because otherwise, unfortunately, the healthcare workers are getting bombarded right now. So just make sure you're not contributing to that because, you know, healthcare workers have gone through a lot, and we don't want to contribute towards that. But anyways, I'm going to start my 2021 year in review. Hopefully some folks will be joining us here shortly. So to start off with interpreting. So I am, for those of you who don't know me, I am an in-person medical interpreter in Richmond, Virginia. I interpret Spanish. So I facilitate interactions between patients and healthcare providers and whoever else I might interact with, might even be a receptionist that I'm assisting with the interaction, just making sure that everyone can understand everyone else and that they can have their communication needs addressed. And at the end of the day, I try and make the interaction be as organic as possible, as close as what an English speaker would experience in the same setting. Obviously, having an exact replica of that is nearly impossible, but I try my very best to approximate, right? So 2020, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. 2020 was a cluster, to put it lightly. It was tough because the pandemic rolled out in around March, was when things started amping up, when it was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. Dude, this hair is just bothering me. Okay. Oh my goodness, it's getting worse. Normally I have the side of my head shaved. It is not shaved at this moment, so my hair is all crazy. But 2020 was a very tenuous year for many, many people, myself included. I am an independent contractor. At the time, I was also an employee of a local health system, a part-time employee. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, I lost my position with the part-time clinic because it just wasn't safe to keep it open any longer. It basically had to shut down, and it hasn't, to my knowledge, resumed since. I also lost, and I'm pretty good with my accounting, so I know exactly how much I lost in one fell swoop, about 86% of my business in March of 2020. So that was a huge blow. Huge blow. And it was hard. It was tough. I've posted videos about this, about how difficult 2020 was for me. Echoed a lot of concerns by a lot of other folks who are in the healthcare field and beyond, in the language services field even. Translators are having a heck of a time right now. So by the end of 2020, I was kind of getting back in the groove of things. However, I still had to supplement my income with other things. So my husband has not been working. He actually lost his job early on in the pandemic as well. But fortunately, because he wasn't an independent contractor, he had some additional resources available to him that were not available to me as an independent contractor, who was also a part-time employee and lost their job. I was not entitled to unemployment benefits. So sorry, I was just wanting to double check because it looked like someone sent me a message. I was not entitled to unemployment benefits, so I basically had to kind of scramble and just figure out, like, okay, lost 86% of my business, lost my part-time job. I had posted some statuses about the year 2020, going into 2021, and some of the things I said going into 2020 were, I just had my first full year of working for myself as a medical interpreter. In some capacity. I did have a part-time job starting out to kind of supplement my income while I worked up my client base. However, I did reach a point where I was almost self-sufficient at that point. And I was looking at 2020 being the first year where I was able to support myself fully with interpreting by itself. I had quit my other part-time job. Of course, that didn't happen. 2020 ended up being a much different year than what a lot of people were expecting. And I even took on some, thankfully, I had some friends who, I have a friend who runs a marketing agency, and I was able to put some of my writing skills to use. I started a Patreon. I started, oh my goodness, all sorts of things to try and bring in income to make ends meet to support my family. Because at a certain point in time in 2020, it was on me to support my family. So rolling into 2021, I was able to, it kind of felt like things were work-wise going back to what I was accustomed to, interpreting. I also, at the end of 2020, began producing continuing education courses for Americans Against Language Barriers. And then in 2021, we're in 2021. I began teaching through their medical interpreting training course, which was amazing. And all in all, when it comes to interpreting, because I want to stick to my categories here, I tend to ramble. I want to stick to my categories. So the first category that I have here is interpreting. Like, how did interpreting go? So I actually had, okay, that's fireworks. I'm like, you're thinking, oh my God, that's gunshots. So there are fireworks going off in the background. Yay, the joys of living in a city, right? Or just outside of the city. I interpreted for over 400 individual appointments this year, which may not seem like a lot because there's 365 days in a year. However, those appointments vary in length from anywhere from 30 minutes to 8 to 12 hours. So big variation there. So I did over 400 appointments this year. However, over 80% of those appointments were developmental pediatrics. So that's pediatric occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, feeding therapy, you name it. And most of the kiddos that I worked with were under the age of 5. So it was almost like kind of like branching a little bit into educational interpreting almost, because a lot of the same needs were being addressed with the services that I was interpreting for, but it was still considered to be medical interpretation. And around half of the appointments I interpreted for last year actually had a speech therapy component to them, which was pretty cool. Kind of tickled my linguistic fancy to be able to interpret for speech therapy. I actually, there are a few parents and providers that I interpret for who actually really are interested in really complex linguistic things, and being able to engage with them on those things was really, really cool. And really feeling like my input mattered. I would start off with some kiddos who were entirely nonverbal, and then by the time that they received services for a while, they would start to speak. And then it was just like a flood. And that was just so cool, seeing all these kiddos who were almost entirely unable to communicate, start communicating. This year has been kind of like the year of last minute cancellations and no-shows, which I was kind of expecting. 2020 was the year of cancellations. And okay, so like no-shows as well, because people just would stop showing up for their appointments. Clinics would close, and so I had lots of appointments just disappear from my schedule. Whereas this year, unfortunately, a lot of the services in place to assist people are not as robust as they once were. For instance, transportation services for patients and parents of patients to get to appointments. That's been a big issue. And also just sickness. People are getting sick. COVID's still here, as much as a lot of people like to pretend that it isn't. There's I don't have TikTok, but I do watch TikToks. And one of my favorite TikToks is this chick who sings a song, COVID isn't over just because you're over it. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, COVID isn't over. So, and I've definitely seen that come up in the appointments I've interpreted for this year. I am happy to report that I've exceeded my income goals for this year versus last year, where my normal income was basically halved. Oh my goodness, it was a really tough time, 2020. And this year, I am proud to say that I was able to support my entire family on my income alone, which was really, it's a feat. I feel very accomplished for that. So I actually have some highlights for 2021. Now I'm getting the years mixed up. I'm like, wait, are we going to 2021 or 2022? It's been like the longest decade this past year, right? These past 2 years. So in terms of my highlights, the first thing was the vaccinations. Being able to get vaccinated was just such a huge thing in January. And unfortunately, for medical interpreters, we really had to fight for it. Now I'm talking about freelance medical interpreters. Unfortunately, the vaccination program in place early on this year was based on your employment status. And because I had just, lost my position as a part-time employee of the health system, I was no longer considered an employee and was not eligible for the COVID-19 vaccination under phase 1A because I was an independent contractor and there was no way for them to really, in the state of Virginia, verify that I was eligible to receive the vaccine. So there was a lot of fighting, a lot of advocacy there for the vaccines. And I also wanted to kind of point out here that this is how I started off 2021 with my PPE. You'll see here I'm wearing one of my hand-sewn cloth masks. In 2020, I have a video that I have here on my channel about how I started a mask group where we ended up sewing over 4,000 masks for essential workers in the greater Richmond area. Over 26% of those masks went to Spanish speakers, which was really awesome. And when I say essential workers, we weren't sewing masks for healthcare workers because there were already groups doing that. We had a group that was sewing masks for people who worked in grocery stores, teachers. Granted, the teachers weren't teaching in person at the time. We had people, goodness gracious, cleaning crews, cleaning staff at hospitals. Unfortunately, a lot of them were not getting masks, and we just didn't have over-the-counter like masks you could just go into a store and buy. They were super short stock, kind of like rapid COVID tests are right now. So you can see here I have my cloth mask. I have my face shield. However, I ended up encountering that the kiddos really, especially the ones with the ones who seem to really like playing with lights and seeing their reflections, they come up to my face shield and get really close to it. So that's why I ended up switching from the face shield to the eye protection. These glasses were actually recommended to me by the physical therapist or an occupational therapist at inpatient rehab. So I love these glasses. And then finally I was able to get masks from a local medical store. So this is me wearing a KN95 mask. And then as time went on, I believe this was at the end of 2020. And then this is towards the beginning of 2021, right before I got vaccinated. I got really serious about this because when you're working with young children, a lot of them can't wear masks. It's just really dangerous. Unfortunately, your exposure is pretty high, but the kids still need what they need. They are so in need of these services. So it was super important to me to be able to do what I did best, go and interpret. And I wore these lab goggles recommended by a friend of mine who's a chemist, and I have my KN95 mask. I have a cloth mask over it. I've since stopped doing that because the CDC I'm not sure what their reasoning is, but they were saying you shouldn't double mask with KN95s. Not sure where that comes from, but I feel adequately protected with the KN95s that I have now. They fit really well to my face. And you'll still see here I have my long hair because when you strap all this stuff on your head, the ponytail actually helps you. It keeps it up. So I was able to, in 2021, finally go back to my old hairstyle, which I have been remiss in upkeeping because, I'm busy all the time now. So after this, let's see here. And then because I spoke out about my state health department, some of the issues that I was observing with the racial disparities in how vaccination was rolling out in communities, I actually had a smear article written about me that got a decent amount of traction, which it's kind of weird to include that in my highlights. However, the silver lining of all that was I had an outpouring of support. And it's kind of bananas, how many people showed up to support me for this and stood up for me. People who I'd never even really had a conversation with. They just saw me in passing, saw what I had been doing. And just from that, I guess I had earned their respect on some level. And So that was really humbling. That was really it was overall, it was a positive experience, which is really strange to think about now. Because when I was going through it, it was rough. I was getting messages constantly. I would have to just turn off my phone and disconnect from social media because people would be like, "Have you seen this article?" And it was a pretty egregious article, and it has since been removed. So that was a huge victory as well, knowing, hey, the things that are being said about me are not correct. They are not factually based, and it was rescinded. So that was a huge, that was pretty cool. I never thought I would be part of something like that, but there I was. So January, February, I got my first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine in January. However, most of my colleagues didn't get it until March or April. And that was only because I was really, really lucky, and I did have some people in my corner. I had some people in my corner, and they helped me out. And unfortunately, they weren't able to help out many more people, but at the very least, they tried to use what resources they had to help as many people as they could. And I'm still to this day incredibly grateful for that, because you never know if I would have gotten sick had I not gotten that vaccine when I got it. February, I got my second dose. I got my booster not too long after they approved the boosters. I'm planning on getting as many vaccines as I need to, because listen, the reason I feel like we're at where we're at is because people just aren't following recommendations. But that is neither here nor there. So in March, I was actually in my friend Bertine's magazine, the first issue, the inaugural issue of the Global Fluency magazine. So the Global Fluency magazine is kind of like an offshoot of the Global Fluency podcast, which I believe is kind of like part of Westbridge Solutions, or at the very least affiliated with it. I apologize if I'm slaughtering this Bertine, but she is amazing. I got to know Bertine through Queer Friendly Interpreters and Translators, which is one of my Facebook groups. And she asked me to write about my experience being an interpreter during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I shared my experiences working with the kiddos. And it was just honestly, it was a really cathartic experience, being able to kind of just take the time to distill and condense what my thoughts and feelings were about what I had done during the pandemic. And I did feel like, I am, every day I would feel like I was putting myself in harm's way. And I felt more exposed because I was working with a lot of unmasked small children. However, that being said, the whole experience as a whole has really, and I'm not even exaggerating, changed my life. Working with the kids that I've been working with. I've always wanted to work with kids. In fact, I wanted to become a social worker, and I wanted to work with kids, and that didn't end up happening. I ended up getting into interpreting instead, which, that's not a bad thing. I love interpreting. I love what I do. And now it really feels like I'm living my purpose and I'm living my calling. And so I just wanted to thank Bertine for inviting me to write something for the inaugural issue of her magazine. And I know she has many more issues since. And oh my goodness, I was so busy. I wasn't able to really give it the attention it deserved, and give Bertine the attention she deserved and the gratitude that she deserved. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to give that to her now. And I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank, I was also on a podcast last year, the Linguists Radio. And that was really cool because I got to talk about mental health interpretation, which during COVID, because I am an in-person interpreter and a lot of places are still utilizing remote interpreters, I haven't seen a huge uptick in mental health interpretation, at least in my assignments. However, I know it's happening. So I think it was really important I was very grateful to have the platform to do that, to kind of raise awareness and kind of let people know about this mental health interpreting series that I have available. It's free to view on YouTube through Americans Against Language Barriers. And it is eligible for CEUs, so you can, it's like a separate fee, like if you want to get the CEUs for it, but it's totally free to view, which I think is amazing because the training for mental health interpretation out there, it's all paid. Most of it is, and it's a lot of the ones that are free aren't very comprehensive. So I really wanted to create something that was super, super comprehensive. And then they posted it for free, which you'd think I'd be kind of mad about that, but I'm actually not. Like, I'm really excited about it because I want that information to get out there. And I am very, very grateful for all the feedback that I've gotten for that. So, I've gotten some really great feedback that has really helped me to grow as an interpreter. So that was March, the Global Fluency magazine. I don't remember exactly what month it was. I think it was in the summertime that I was on the Linguists Radio podcast. Once this video is actually saved to my YouTube channel, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to add cards later, which will have links to all of these things that I talk about during the video. This is just my first YouTube live video, so I don't know how to add this stuff like live or if you even can, right? So then in April, I got invited to present at the National Council on Interpreting Healthcare annual membership meeting. And they asked me, they're like, can you do something LGBTQ related? And I was like, heck yeah. And it was the theme for the annual membership meeting was all about, I believe, trauma and social justice, something along those lines. I'm sorry. I don't have so many things that I'm referencing here. I don't have the resources available, but I decided to present on, this is my super complicated title, Intersectional Trauma, the Importance of Providing LGBTQ Affirming Interpreting Services. I am incredibly grateful once again to have been given the platform to present on this. I've also presented this to a class at a local university, spreading the good word, had some great conversations, actually made some friends from this. And I really like NCIHC. Highly recommend joining the NCIHC if you have not already. Membership fee pays for itself, not just with the CEUs, but also too, like, it's a really nice group of people, and they all have the same common interests, which it might seem a little bit silly saying that about an association for interpreters, but I think the things that they are focused on, super important. So that was really cool. I got to present at the annual membership meeting of the National Council on Interpreting in Healthcare in 2021. And that was in April. Now in June, I got something else cool. In June, I got to participate in CCHI's community conversation. And this was their community conversation for Pride Month. So I got to talk with, and I finally got to meet Artemis Lopez. Like, that was so cool because I follow them on social media and reference a lot of their stuff when we talk about pronouns. Sorry if you hear that noise in the background. That's my stepson sneezing. He sneezes so darn loud. But anyways, so this is really, really exciting. This is really, really cool. And I think it's really important to lift up queer voices like this in the interpreting community because they're not really given a lot of clout. So that's why groups like Queer-Friendly Interpreters and Translators that I have is so important. That's why this conversation was super important. Just having this platform and really being able to discuss these things was just super, super cool. And then we're going to go back to my camera here because I don't have an image for this one. But in August, so even though I'm talking about interpreting, I'm going to talk next about InterpretMed, and then after that, I'm going to talk about teaching. But in August, Americans Against Language Barriers, which is the organization, they're a nonprofit organization, the one through which I teach some courses, medical interpreting training, basically an introductory course for medical interpreters to qualify for certification. They get their training certificate. they actually won the IMIA 2021 Distinction in Medical Interpreter Education Award, which was just like, that came out of nowhere. Like, where did that come from? And that was just so cool. And it was just definitely one of those things. I shared it with my mother-in-law. I sent it to her immediately. And she's like, oh my gosh, Kelly, you're famous. And I'm like, okay, this isn't about me. This is about the training program. The training program like, everyone I work with ALB is just so amazing. They're so knowledgeable. We're always like in each other's stuff. I mean, in Nanji, which if y'all know, I'm going to talk about Nanji in a bit, but, and Nanji is a trainer with Americans Against Language Barriers who work together on InterpreMed. And I mean, we'll see that a lot of cross collaboration with all of the trainers at Americans Against Language Barriers. So it's just this nice little professional little clique that we have, which is, again, it's really nice and really cool and really awesome. And then in September, I got my CCHI certification. So I was already a certified medical interpreter, a CMI-Spanish through the National Board of Certification for Medical Interpreters. Then I decided, and I have a video about this on my channel. I'm sure if you see this video recorded, you're going to see the little card pop up suggesting that video where I discuss why I decided to get dual certified as a medical interpreter. And it was just kind of like, 2021 was a punch in the gut. And it felt like 2021 and the universe were just like, we're going to try and just throw everyone off their course, right? And that's how I felt. I felt like I was just getting thrown off my course. Like interpreting is my passion. And I'm really just kind of getting pushed off the track here. And so getting certified for me, getting a dual certification was kind of like doubling down and being stubborn, because I'm a very stubborn person, and saying, no, I'm going to do this. This is what I was put on this earth to do, and I'm going to do it. And I did it. And I did it with Nanji. So that was super exciting. Now back to our images. Let's see here. Oh no, I think I got to go through the whole thing again. Oh no, I don't. Okay, cool. Now the next thing is, now this sounds silly, but this is kind of a big deal. So in November, the sound card on my computer died. So there was quite a while where I did not have any, didn't have any audio on my computer, which kind of stinks when you record a lot of audio for your website and you produce videos for YouTube, and educational videos for your students, and do Zoom teaching classes for medical interpreters. It was a whole thing. So this was my setup for a minute. I had my old laptop in the middle there with my second screen, and then I had my husband's new laptop on my lap, and that's how I do my audio editing. So now, if we know anything about how the supply chain issues have been, it's that getting a hold of a new computer is kind of hard. Getting a hold of a new computer with a beefy graphics card for video editing is even harder. Yet, I was able to get my fancy new computer. And it said it wasn't going to arrive until December, but it arrived in November, even though I ordered it in November. So I was super cool. But this thing was like twice as expensive as it should have been. I know my tech specs and graphics cards are ridiculous right now, but great computer, super happy with it. And yeah, I'm recording on it right now. And then one last thing. Oh no, I think I forgot my image for this one. But in December, I started back up again my interpreter and translator peer support group meetings. And the nice thing is now that I'm in with InterpreMed, is that we have access to a Zoom account where we don't have the limit meeting. So I'm hoping to make that like a regular staple of 2021, because I feel like we have been all so collectively burnt out from this whole thing. So I wanted to provide a space, just a very unstructured, informal space for interpreters and translators, just kind of like meet and share their common struggles and interests. And it was really great meeting with everyone towards the end of December. And I hope to make those a regular occurrence in 2021. Excuse me, 2022. Getting the years mixed up. So this is what happens with live videos, is y'all get to see how expressive my face is. It's pretty bad. So that's pretty much all I have to say about interpreting. Now, in terms of, this is specifically like interpreting in the field and presenting at conferences and things like that. But I do have to talk about InterpreMed. So InterpreMed has kind of structured and affected my whole year. It's been a wild ride. So for those of you who don't know, in 2020, I established my Patreon, where I started creating medical interpreting practice scripts and recorded audios in English and Spanish because I heard a resounding message from the medical interpreting community when the call volumes were dropping and everything, like, okay, we need practice because I'm used to taking 8 hours of calls a day interpreting. Interpreting is a muscle. You got to work it out. And if you're not working it out, it atrophies, right? It's going to get weaker. And then, okay, well, we know we're going to be needed. We want to make sure we're fresh for when we are needed. So I started producing these materials just kind of like, okay, I started my YouTube channel. That's where this came from. Now can I just say, I have 2,000 followers now. I never in a million years thought I would have a following on YouTube. Fireworks again. It just sounds like I got gunshots. I swear, y'all, I don't live in one of those neighborhoods, okay? It's everything's good. It's fireworks. But not anymore. But anyways, so I started my YouTube channel, and then I was just like, okay, like, listen, y'all, I'm spending a lot of time on this stuff. I have shared previously in this video that I had to support my family by myself. It was towards around that time that I started my Patreon, where folks would pay a small monthly subscription fee to access additional scripts, because I had free scripts on my YouTube channel, as I always have, and I always will. Excuse me. But then I got approached by Nanji Mateo from InterpreMed, and she asked me, hey, can you come and work with me on this InterpreMed website that I have? And I was like, oh, my competitor. No, I can't. I was like, But then I just kind of swallowed my pride, and I was like, I'm going to work with this person because what they have, I believe in it. It looks really awesome. And now it marks a year since I've started with InterpreMed. So while 2021 kind of closed a chapter on my Patreon, it opened this whole big new chapter of InterpreMed and my friendship with Nanji, which has been very transformative. So we actually produced 9 study guides. 9 study guides for InterpreMed. And let me see here. So this is what one of our study guides looks like. This is our endocrinology diabetes study guide. So you see, we produced a lot of stuff for each study guide. We write all the scripts, we produce all the materials, we do all the translations, we proofread, we're very collaborative on it. We're actually up very early this morning doing site maintenance. Very early this morning. So that was the start of my day. So we had a written medical interpretation certification exam study guide. We had an oral medical interpretation certification exam. We did a dermatology study guide about acne. We had a COVID-19 study guide. We had a nephrology study guide all about peritoneal dialysis. We had a gynecology study guide about PCOS, an emergency medicine study guide, a physical therapy study guide, and now we have our medical roulette, which is basically, because let's face it, when you're interpreting in the field as a medical interpreter, you're just not, a lot of times you get thrown some pretty unexpected stuff. So that's what the roulette's all about, is just kind of like scattershot, different types of materials, different medical specialties. So we can kind of, learn some of those really important skills of managing the unexpected, right? And so the really crazy thing is just how much content we've produced and even I have redone over the past year. You'd be surprised how much 2 people can do. And so like in between my assignments, like when I'm interpreting, I'll like come home, I'll work on InterpreMed stuff, I'll work on some American Scans language barrier stuff, and then I'll go out and I'll interpret, and then I'll come back to this office right here and I'll start working on more InterpreMed stuff. And then I'll be like recording, and then it's madness. But I'm running around all the time doing all sorts of stuff, and everything I'm doing is related to interpretation. And the stuff that I thought I had deleted something. So in terms of content, okay, so I made this little short about the amount of hours of practice audios and scripts that we have. Okay. It compares halfway through the year versus at the end of the year. So before, we had 30 hours of practice audio, 60 hours of consecutive interpretation audios, and over 75 simultaneous exercises. Then it went to 50 hours, 100 consecutive interpretation audios, and 200 simultaneous interpreting audios on InterpreMed. It's insane. We have so much content. It's to the point now where it's just kind of like, whoa there, cowboy, we got to slow down, because we have produced so much stuff. Like, if you need a place to go to practice medical interpretation, InterpreMed's the place to go. So it is a membership website. There is a membership fee. However, there are some professional associations that you may be able to be a member of that have it included in them. An example of like another membership website, Trans Interpreting. They had a partnership with us where part of their membership would include membership to our website. So we're planning on expanding more upon that in 2022. So be on the lookout for that, but you can always sign up directly through the website. If you sign up now, you lock in your membership price. The thing is we have so much stuff, we add so much stuff that the value of our membership keeps on increasing. But if you lock in your price like now, even if the membership price goes up, you're good. But that is neither here nor there. We also launched the Academy at InterpreMed. Oh, hey, I have someone who actually posted something in the chat. Thank you. Is it Davi or David? I am so glad that my videos are helping you. That makes me so happy. That's all I ever wanted. But so in addition to all of the content that we produced this year at InterpreMed, we also have, let's see here. I'm not used to using OBS like this. We started the InterpreMed Ambassador Program, which is pretty cool. So the InterpreMed Ambassador Program is basically, so with InterpreMed, we have live medical interpreting practice sessions. And the really cool thing about that is, and this is something that we noticed, Nanji and I, we get to see people interpret. So we can kind of like pick up on like, oh, okay, this person, they know what they're doing, or, you know, we know what this person needs to work on. And of course we give constructive feedback wherever we can. And their colleagues that they're working with, their peers, are seeing them practice. Like, you ask any of our members on our website who practice with each other, like, who do you think's best at this XYZ? Who do you think, you know, who would you turn to for this particular issue? And they'll tell you right off the bat, like, you really get to know people's skill set. And so the ambassador program kind of seeks to just harness this and make the most of these experiences that we have and that we're creating and facilitating by connecting our members with volunteer opportunities with our program partners, which are all nonprofits. We only have one right now, but we're looking at expanding. They're nonprofits that are serving the limited English proficient community, and they're doing some great things. And so that was really one of my big brainchilds was starting this, and I'm really excited to have started it. It's been kind of like in the works a little bit, simply because we were approaching the holidays when we launched it, right? We're really hoping to kick it off with the new year, hit the ground running. And we also started the Academy at InterpreMed. So the Academy at InterpreMed is basically, it's where we're going to host our CEUs. And if you need continuing education units, we already have 2 courses up there. Let's Talk Confidentiality, Ethics, it's basically comparing and contrasting the ethical principle of confidentiality across what I like to call the big 3, which are the medical interpreting codes of ethics. We don't just have 1 medical interpreting codes of ethics, we have 3. Most people just refer to the NCIHC, but there's so much more than that. And then we compare and contrast that with our ethical with our legal responsibility to confidentiality through HIPAA. So it is for interpreters who interpret in the United States. You can be a remote interpreter outside the United States, interpreting for healthcare facilities in the United States, but you'd find it very useful. And also, Nanji has a note-taking course on there. And the really cool thing about the Academy is with our extensive experience with operating learning management systems through, our experiences with other training programs, our experience with Interpremed, because Interpremed operates off of an LMS, we were able to find like a really good solution where we can create feature-rich courses, because there is nothing I hate more in this world than, pardon my French, but saying you hate something isn't really a bad word, is it? I don't know. I guess it depends on your perspective. But one of the things that I really don't like about a lot of CEU courses is it's like they give you a video, and a lot of times it's just someone reading off of slides. And then at the end of the video, maybe you have a quiz to see if you absorbed the information, and then you get your CEU certificate. But it's kind of like, are you absorbing that information? Are you engaging with the information? The best way to learn something is to engage with it, right? So that's something that we really are trying to do with the Academy, is make courses that are really engaging, feature-rich, content-rich, have a lot of additional resources. That way it feels more like you're interacting with it versus just staring at a screen for an hour or two. So that was another cool thing, is starting the Academy at Interpremed. So I wanted to, now I don't have Nanji here, but I wanted to take a moment to talk about Nanji. So here's some pictures of me and Nanji. So like I said, Nanji is my partner in crime. She's the founder of Interpremed. I'm the co-founder. These are our silly little social media photos that we've shared on our Instagram. And then also we've had some like, oh yeah, this one's great. The fusion, in-person interpreting, remote interpreting, because she's a remote interpreter and I'm an in-person interpreter. And as a result of that, it's really expanded my mind. And then all of our weird interactions about the English language, because we have a lot of back and forth between us, a lot of collaboration. We're translating, proofreading, everything. And we will even like really argue like some linguistic points. And that has been so valuable to me as an interpreter, having someone to kind of, we're very silly. We're very funny. We talk to each other like all day, every day. I'm surprised Nanji, have you messaged me? Oh yes. This is one of our favorite memes. I have included some of our memes, because what is a YouTube video without memes? Oh yeah. This is the day that Facebook went down and I couldn't talk to Nanji for like a whole 5 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. So that is one thing that's kind of like come out of Interpremed that's been really, really great, is having kind of like a partner. And surprise, surprise, on Facebook, number one person I've interacted with is Nanji. But yeah, like I was, oh yes, this is Helmo. What can be said about Helmo? I mean, really, this is just kind of like an inside joke between us. So yeah, it's just been really great having like this other person to be like your right hand woman with interpreting. And like, I feel like our strengths and weaknesses complement each other so well, to where we're really collaborative and we're really able to help each other grow. So I highly encourage, something that I've had a lot of remote interpreters share with me is that during COVID, they felt very lonely, more lonely than they ever have. And I've heard that from even some in-person interpreters. They feel like disconnected from other interpreters. Join those professional associations, join medical interpreting groups on Facebook if you're a medical interpreter, court interpreting groups if you're a court interpreter, conference interpreting groups on Instagram, because Instagram is kind of the place where all the conference interpreters like to go. Really use that technology to your advantage, because just because you're physically separated from other people doesn't mean you have to not have that kind of social interaction with your colleagues. And the way that I met most of the interpreters I know is actually through Facebook interpreting groups. And that's how Nanji found out about me. And apparently we were kind of like fangirling on each other for a little while. Like I was like, oh my God, this Nanji Mateo chick is like really cool. Like she has this InterpretMed website and it seems really legit. And then apparently Nanji was sitting there with her going, oh my God, this Kelly chick, she's pretty cool. Like, oh my gosh, I need to follow her. And then we kind of like met up and we were, I ended up doing a presentation for InterpretMed and turned into this whole thing. So it's just mind blowing to think like how different this year has been from last year. Not to say it hasn't had its negatives, but it's nice to know that the positives that have come out of this year aren't just things that are temporary. They're positive things that are going to be positive things rolling forward, right? So I did want to talk about my experience teaching this year. So teaching has been really, really cool. I never thought I would be teaching medical interpretation or interpretation in general. I never thought I'd be teaching. I was tutoring Spanish during COVID, like early on, as a way to kind of supplement my income. I stepped back from that simply because I just didn't have the time to do it anymore. And it was nice. It was almost a relief. Not that I didn't want to tutor anymore. Like I like teaching. I like sharing knowledge with people. But it was nice getting to that point where I wasn't wondering where every nickel and dime was coming from, because that was very, very stressful. And I've definitely had those periods of time in my life where I felt like that. But yet I kind of be doing well. And then all of a sudden you get jerked back to that period of time in your life where you really weren't doing well. Is tough. So being able to pick and choose where I wanted my income to come from, pick and choose my focuses, it's a real privilege, honestly, because not everyone has that privilege. So being able to not only have had that privilege, but have lost that privilege and gotten it back was a good feeling. But nevertheless, in late 2020, I began producing this 10-part mental health interpreting series with Americans Against Language Barriers. As of right now, some of the parts are up on their YouTube. Like I mentioned previously, that you can view these videos for free on Americans Against Language Barriers YouTube channel. And then they're also available for CEU credits as well. But I was asked in early 2021 if I wanted to teach with their medical interpreting training program. I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. All right, let's see how this is. Let's do this. It's pretty cool, y'all. I'm pretty excited about it. Like going into 2022, excuse me. Oh, see, I keep on messing up the years. It's just really nice. Like I'm excited about teaching too. I'm excited about interpreting. I'm excited about InterpretMed. I'm excited about teaching. So it's a real privilege to be excited about all these things that I'm going to be doing and the work that I do. So I went through my calendar. I might not have as detailed metrics with my classes as I do with my general interpreting stuff. However, I taught over 50 classes this year, which I would say is probably about like 100 hours of teaching in medical interpretation and beginner medical interpretation. And that doesn't include all of the live meetings I've done with InterpretMed, all the webinars I've given, all the conferences I've participated in and things like that. But just classes like ELB, I've taught over 50 classes this year. I've taught medical interpreting ethics, which that's kind of, if you all have seen the videos I posted on my channel, those are something kind of like my new obsession. So I teach the ethics and standards of practice. The ethics I teach from NCIHC. However, I like to incorporate the other two medical interpreting codes of ethics, which are the IMIA Code of Ethics and the CHIA Code of Ethics. I teach parts 1 through 3. So that includes your introduction, that includes your ethical scenarios. I also have on InterpretMed, we have our ethics club, which I got really busy at the end of the year, so I haven't been doing as many ethics clubs, but I'm wanting to, in 2022, start rolling out with those ethics clubs again. I also teach mediums medical interpretation, where we talk about the differences between face-to-face interpretation, over-the-phone interpretation, and video remote interpretation. I teach roles of the medical interpreter, where we talk about the conduit, the clarifier, the cultural broker, and the advocate. Now I teach terminology management, which that was really cool to help me it's really amazing how teaching other people about the things that you already know about helps you really expand your knowledge of those things. Like you think like, oh yeah, I pretty much have this concept down, right? Yes, you do. But when you start teaching it, it's like you almost get like the spiritual level of understanding of these topics, which really has helped me as an interpreter. Not to say I'm a bad interpreter. Listen, I'm trying not to be, I'm not the type of person to be like super cocky about my abilities. Of course, some of my friends are probably going to laugh at me about that, but I do have some self-esteem issues. And sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, like, I could have done that better. And then it tends to spiral and go into, oh my God, I'm horrible at what I do. I'm not. I constantly try and remind myself of that. And I will say, though, everyone always has room for improvement. And teaching medical interpretation, for me, has really helped me become a better interpreter. So I also teach language access laws and regulations, which even before I taught language access laws and regulations, I could cite off, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act 1964, Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act, things like that. But now, again, my understanding of these laws and regulations is like on a spiritual level here, which is just really cool. And this is something that y'all are probably going to see a little bit more of me sharing about in 2022, is really getting y'all's knowledge where it needs to be with those laws and regulations. Because unfortunately, as I'm sure some of y'all have noticed, there is what was discussed in the, this was in a discussion with NCIHC about this culture of non-compliance. And that is unfortunately something that, is being seen in the healthcare community. Not all healthcare facilities claim ignorance, but there are certainly some healthcare facilities that claim ignorance about these language access laws and regulations. So knowing them is super important. I also teach Introduction to Mental Health Interpreting, which should be of no surprise, given that I'm doing the CEU course with ALB, right? I also teach Intro to Pediatric Interpreting, which is really cool. I got to interview a pediatric occupational therapist for that course. And I do talk about soft skills, building rapport, things like that. But of course, we also want to focus on those hard skills like terminology. So I teach the class probably slightly differently from the way some other folks teach the class, but that's just because, oh my goodness, there's so many things that to me are so important about pediatric interpreting that oh my goodness, like I said before, I mean, interpreting developmental pediatrics has really changed my life. And all of my students always tell me, I can tell how excited and enthusiastic you are about your job and what you do. And that for you, it's not a job, it's a calling. And I like when that comes through in the classes that I teach. And then I also recently started teaching cultural mediation. Lots of stuff going on. During the course of 2021, we first had, we had general topics. We produced the courses. We each produced our own classes, our own lesson plan, essentially, taught from it. And then we had a standardized curriculum. And then we had to adapt our courses to the standardized curriculum. And so all of my courses have pretty much been like revised and revised and revised and revised. I've taught, goodness gracious, I think about 4 sessions now, at least with them. Meaning these classes have really been fine-tuned which is just really cool seeing how much improvement I have from the first course that I taught versus the last one that I taught with the same subject, because you learn while you teach, which is really cool. On a personal note, because I've talked about teaching, I've talked about InterpretMed, so producing educational materials for interpreters, talking about interpreting in general. Here go the fireworks again. I mentioned that this was my first full year supporting my family on my own. So it's a huge accomplishment for me being able to say, like, I did this, you know? It's been tough. My stepson was doing virtual school at first. He switched back to in-person school. And now we're looking at this wave right now, and we'll see how that goes. Another thing in my personal life is everyone in my family is now vaccinated to the fullest capabilities. Of course, my stepson is not yet eligible for his booster, but I was hunting those appointments for him. He's 11, so he's just now almost on the borderline of one of the age groups that they were looking into the vaccinations for. So the second they approved it for his age group, I was hunting the vaccination websites for appointments for him, and was able to get him one of the first available appointments in my area. And so he's fully vaccinated. Everyone in my house is fully vaccinated, which is such a huge weight off of my shoulders. Like, yes, there's still that ever-present threat of COVID, but now it's less, oh my God, I'm going to catch this and I could die, versus, okay, this is just annoying. Like, it's like the flu basically, but all the time, or in waves. And like, yeah, I could get sick, and I could infect my family. I could have long-term side effects. That's always a possibility. However, I do feel safer being vaccinated. God forbid, one of my biggest fears would be interpreting for someone and being asymptomatic and inadvertently getting them sick. Which, of course, I'm very adherent to mask wearing and all safety precautions in terms of COVID, but just that possibility existing was a hard pill to swallow. So having that whole weight off of my shoulders has just been inexplicable. Not feeling the fear that I felt for my stepson is just, that's probably for me the best gift of 2021, which, a lot of people might feel differently about that, but I'm entitled to my own opinions, right? And unfortunately, I did have some health setbacks in 2021. I suffer from migraines. I get monthly migraines, and they are debilitating. Yeah, it's been tough, but I'm getting through it. I'm managing it as best as I can, trying to find the root cause as best as I can. And I'm scheduled to see one of the best neurologists in my area that I've been looking to see for about 5 years at this point in time, in 2022. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I'll make some progress on that. But overall, none of us has gotten COVID. We're happy. We're healthy. We're safe, which, we have a roof over our heads, which, as we've seen during this pandemic, can be not as guaranteed of a thing as we once thought it was. So looking forward, 2022, I feel like we already kind of talked about what I'm looking forward to for 2022, and I'll kind of go back through my categories. So in terms of interpreting, I'm just going to keep on keeping on. I fully anticipate this to continue being the year of peds. I have lots of regular families that I interpret for, and it's such a pleasure and a privilege. And I anticipate continuing with many of the same families, and meeting new families. And oh my goodness, I love working with those kiddos. I love working with those kiddos and the parents, and it's just so amazing. And just knowing I have that to look forward to in 2022 is just, it's really nice. So, because I didn't feel like I had a lot to look forward to in 2021, and now looking forward to 2022, I know I'm good. We're good. Everyone's good. In terms of teaching, so I can't really talk too much about tentative plans, but it seems like there may be on the menu some tentative plans for some of us to potentially meet each other, which surprisingly, I teach with these folks and I work with them and we collaborate. So I anticipate some meetings to occur in 2022, getting to actually see some people in person. Some of these connections that I forged during COVID with other interpreters, being able to see them come to fruition in real life. And then InterpreMed. I mean, InterpreMed is just, the InterpreMed team is just, and we call them a team, even though technically I'm the co-founder, Nanji's the founder, like we're all equals, yes, we start the meetings for everyone, but everyone I've met through InterpreMed has just been so cool and so dedicated. And I think that's really what, like, you can go to an interpreting group on Facebook, which is all fine and good. Like, I love those. Don't get me wrong. Like, I wouldn't be where I am without those interpreting groups on Facebook. But when you have people who like actively say like, okay, I am going to subscribe. I am going to come and I'm going to show up to these meetings and I'm going to do this practice and I'm going to show you what I'm made of. And really seeing people grow. I've seen so much growth in people this past year, not just in the patients I've interpreted for, the parents, the families I've interpreted for, in my own family, in myself, in Nanji, in the people I've worked with on InterpreMed, the members on InterpreMed, and the students that I've taught. It's just, I think that's it. Because I've been, there's a page I follow on Facebook called Blessing Manifesting, and I love that page. I love her. She's so freaking cool. Super focused on self-care and mental health. She says, she posted something the other day where she said she was trying to think of what she does every year. She chooses a word for the year that just passed. Instead of doing a New Year's resolution, she does a word for the year that just passed. And I think the word then for 2021 will have been growth. Won't know what the word for 2022 is yet until 2022 happens. But I think growth is a good word for 2021. And I think that pretty much wraps it up. Now, I did promise some memes in the description of this video. Hi, Miriam. Thank you for joining me. I was literally just gushing about InterpreMed members. But I wanted to share, before I shared some memes, one of the things that I would like to do, and oh my goodness, Miriam, it's so perfect that you're here, is portraying my most authentic self, because I feel like sharing parts of myself on social media like this, we get a very filtered view. So one of my goals is to portray myself, my whole self, more authentically. And so I wanted to end this with showing some memes about New Year's. However, this may come as a surprise to some folks, but I am an incredibly sarcastic person. I may come off as happy-go-lucky and kind of smiley on my live streams and everything, but I can actually be quite sarcastic and fatalistic and have kind of like that a little bit of that humor negro, like that black humor. So with that note, I'm going to show some New Year's memes because it is the new year after all, isn't it? Me knowing nothing changes at midnight. Listen, human beings, we got to chunk time together, right? We got to measure the passage of time somehow, and we got to reflect. I think this is therapeutic and important for me to just kind of reflect. And I hope, other folks gain some value out of this. Maybe someone will be on their exercise bike and just listen to me chit chat about my year. Who knows? You never know how what you share is going to impact people. So yeah, nothing really changes at midnight. We're still going to be the same people. It's all a matter of what you do with it, right? See, even that's less fatalistic than I normally am. Normally I'm like, nothing matters. I'm okay, I promise. All right. Next meme. I'm sorry, I'm a really bad person, okay? And I am a good person. I just have a really bad sense of humor. No thanks. Celebrating would imply I think there's hope for the future. Okay, I think we all know that, yes, I do have some hope for 2022. I'm looking very much forward to working with the kiddos, but, you know, when it comes to COVID stuff, I'll be honest with y'all, like, I can pretty much see everyone's given up about it. I haven't, but I'm just kind of like, I'm like this guy in this meme when it comes to that. All right. Remember when you were little and you'd fall on the trampoline and everyone would keep jumping so you couldn't get back up? That's exactly how this whole year has felt. Listen, like, yes, it's been a good year. It has been a hard year. I have busted my butt working really, really hard. So that's a little bit what's been like. It's like some mornings I'll wake up and be like, oh my God, why did I do this to myself? And it's like those people jumping on the trampoline. But to be real, this is more a 2020 meme. Let's be real. This is more 2020. Hear me out. What if instead of kissing someone at midnight on New Year's, we all just collectively scream? Okay, that was pretty good. Because it's this sometimes, and my stepson does this. Sometimes when he gets angry, he'll go upstairs, he'll grab his pillow, and he'll just bury his face in his pillow and just go, ah! Oh, the trampoline one, okay. So it's important to have that release, that catharsis, you know, get some of this stuff out. Join our interpreter and translator peer support groups, you know, start a vlog, a video blog, which I know that's kind of an outdated term at this point. Start a YouTube channel, do something, talk with people, connect with other people. So yeah, here I've gone and I've taken my fatalistic memes and I've turned them into positive stories, I suppose. Oh, yeah. So celebrating New Year's Eve. Look at this little trash panda, little possum. 12 hours into January, screaming begins again. Listen, I look all nice and pretty on my live stream. Okay, my hair's a little bit of a mess. My shirt's a little bit of a mess. But you know what? What are you going to do about it? I got a pile of stuff over here that I hid from camera's view. But regardless, I look like this first picture. I'm probably going to look like this halfway through the day tomorrow. Let's be real. Let's be honest. Screaming begins again. Do I have one more meme? Oh, yeah. Okay, this one's in Spanish. Como pensé que iba a acabar el año. How I thought I was going to end the year. Como lo estoy acabando. How I'm ending it. How I'm finishing it. Milk drunk kitten. It's probably going to be me in about 5 minutes once I get off of here. Do I have another meme? This one, okay, so listen, comrade, all memes, no memes are stolen. All memes are shared. This one, an interpreter friend of mine recently shared. The fact that 2021 is already over is proof that time also flies when you are not having fun. Let's be real, like working hard is hard work. I worked really hard this year. So yeah, okay, I had fun with the kiddos, but there were a lot of times this year where I wasn't having fun and I was working really hard and I was really tired. But is it just me, or has this year simultaneously felt like a decade and like 5 minutes? Don't ask me how that works. And we're back to our original meme. That's our New Year's memes, our year in review. So for anyone who joined us live or me live, how does that work when you have a live stream? Is it us or is it me? I don't know. So thanks for joining live. If you are watching this as a recording later, I hope you find it useful. Yeah, I feel like it went by so fast, but slow at the same time. I don't even know how. Like, it's just like this time paradox. We'll call it like the 2020 paradox. What are they calling now? The aughts? I don't know. They have these weird names for the decades now. I can't keep up with them. because I'm old, you know. But yeah, so definitely like over the whole video. So it's hopefully going to be divided up into chapters where you'll be able to see, you know, like different portions. Like, okay, well, this is where I talk about teaching. This is where I talk about interpreting. This is where I talk about interpret. This is where I talk about personal stuff. And I'm also going to have the cards should pop up over the videos. I'm not going to do that tonight because I want to spend some time with my family, but I will add the cards later for things that I referenced during the video. I will say, however, that if you are interested in following me, whether it be on YouTube, I mean, if you're on YouTube right now, you can follow me on YouTube. If you're not already doing that, make sure to do that because I just posted another consecutive interpreting practice video, a script video, actually about the new CDC COVID-19 guidelines, quarantine and isolation guidelines, updated ones. So I like doing scripts on current events. So that's there to watch that. But also let me see here, I'm going to need to add a source. Oopsies. I should have added this earlier. Okay, you might not see me right now. I'm still here. I cannot believe I did not add this earlier. There we go. See, now you can see things and hear things. So if you go to my website, so my website is kghinterpretation.com. Go to kghinterpretation.com and then you click up on subscribe. You can actually go down and see you can subscribe via my email list where I haven't really written many articles on my website lately because I've been so gosh darn busy. You can subscribe and follow me on social media. So I'm on Facebook. I have my Facebook page, KGH Interpretation. I'm on LinkedIn. Not particularly active on LinkedIn, but I do see a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. So I'm more of a lurker there. Twitter comes in bursts. YouTube, I'm on YouTube. Instagram, again, one of those things that kind of comes in bursts. Gives you a breakdown here of what I share where. And you can always find me on Interpremed. So you can find, oh my goodness, clicked on the wrong thing. So you can find me there, and I hope to see you later. Miriam, I know I'll see you soon. So I hope you all have a happy new year and stay safe, please. If you're probably watching this after the fact, you can't change what you've done in the past, but I will say, moving forward, remember, COVID is still a thing. Please take all precautions. Just because the vaccine is out there doesn't mean that COVID has no risks. So please, please, please be safe. Because healthcare workers are hurting right now and we don't want to overwhelm them. All right.